would you like to sleep for 5 minutes? Come back with a cup of coffee or something? Yeah? Why don't you ask me some question on this? Are you learning something new? Yeah? Are you sure? Yeah? Are you learning something new or no? Now I may like to inform you, if you're interested. I do a lot of teaching. I've taught very briefly at IIMA, and I teach often at IIT Bombay. And in the process, I learned a very important lesson. Would you like to learn what the lesson is? Yeah? This I learned as a kid, way back when I used to read the Reader's Digest a lot. It seems an American had once won, and I'm sure you're going to like this joke a lot. It's invaluable. A scientist had won a huge international award. The Japanese went to him and said, please come to Japan and talk about your work. The American said, I will need 3 hours to make my presentation. They said, fine sir, no problems. Then he said, here you people don't understand English, so you'll have to translate it into Japanese. This will take 3 more hours. They said, no problems, you can speak for 6 hours. You got no problems, because we want to learn what you're saying. At the end of 1 hour presentation by the American, the translation was only for 5 seconds. The whole 1 hour presentation was over. Right? He said, sir, our presentation over here, please continue. He said, what is this? Well, he said, so we have done it, so please go into the second presentation. He spoke for 1 more hour, and the translation again was for only 5 seconds. And at the end of the third presentation also, the translation was for? Excellent. So the whole thing got over in 3 hours and 15 seconds. Now, Japanese are supposed to be very polite, Basically, they don't scream, shout, whatever. So when all of them, about 500 of them, they all came, shook hands and went away. So our man asked, what is the first translation? The translation itself said, our American friend has not spoken anything new. The second translation said, I don't expect him to say anything new in this third presentation. Right? And the third one said, my dear brothers and sisters, I was absolutely correct. There is nothing new in what he said. Now, I do not want to face that predicament with you. This is a very important learning. This is a very important learning. When you try to add value to what is known to you, it's my business to tell you something which will interest you. In that context, was this useful for you? I'm sure you will be able to extend this to your mathematics. Right? Please remember this. This is an extremely important experimental approach, which is critical for all of us. Now, supposing I tell you, therefore, there is a huge body of scientific evidences. Use this word, it helps a lot. Empirical evidence. Empirical is actual facts and figures. Right? When you go out, see in the field, and you document them, they create a body of information. This is called empirical evidence. This empirical evidence is then used for verification. This is used not only in the case of climate change, it is also used in the case of ozone layer depletion. It's used everywhere. Because we really do not know what happens in nature. Right? Now let me tell you, I'll ask you another question. Okay? Supposing, in a over, that famous over where Yuvraj Singh scored 6 sixes, right? Yeah, I don't mind the competition, but you will mind the voice competition, that we are struggling for your attraction. Okay. Now, Yuvraj, who was the bowler? I forget the name of the bowler. He was an English bowler. No, an English bowler. He first bowled at Yuvraj and he hit him for a 6. And at the end of the second ball also when he hit him, this bowler went up to him and said something. Yuvraj got all the more upset and he hammered him for the third one. The fourth happened, the fifth, sixth, and at the end of the sixth over, in the sixth ball, Yuvraj walked up to him and told him, better learn your lesson. Right? Now, you know what happened? Under normal circumstance, maybe Yuvraj would have scored just about 2 sixes. But when you provoke him, you know what happens. Similar to what happens with, let's say, Saurav or maybe even Sachin. When Bradley bowls a bouncer and it hits Saurav, the next ball invariably goes for a 6 or a 4. And in the case of Sachin, when Bradley bowls and he gets hit, he goes and tells him, I'm sorry, like that's because of the stature, the kind of attachment. Now, what is more important here, therefore, for you to understand that in nature, in natural phenomena, based on what we kind of interpret, there are two major variations. One is a natural progression or a natural variation, and number two is artificially induced. So when we try to look at a certain reaction in nature, right, we imagine it can progress in a certain path with a certain speed. But supposing suddenly we find the reaction is happening too fast, right, and we really are not able to interpret what happens, it could be on account of artificial induced factors. You must remember this, right? And this will help you interpret phenomena better. In the case of ozone layer depletion also, which is a reality. Now, before I go into that, when we deal with science, you may like, do you know what is the root word for science? The word science has got a root word. Would you like to know the root word? Yeah, what is the root word? Anyone please? Coffee or tea for anyone? Like you can keep your mobile, you can also sleep, I don't promise. Okay, so like what is this root word? Would you like to know the root word for science? Look up in the dictionary, but I can tell you also now. The root word is scientia. Scientia. Scientia means to know. The pursuit of knowledge. The pursuit of knowledge is science. And that way, like political science. We would like to understand what happens within a political system. That would be economics, which is also science. The word science, therefore, is a broad-based word. Now, any pursuit of knowledge could be called science. And in this process, a very important aspect of science is also its relevance for the public. There's a public policy interface for science, which kind of has to very clearly state what are the facts and separate them out from the politics. Now we take the case of climate change. How many of you follow the problem of climate change? Do you think it's really happening? Yeah. How many of you have read, at least in the newspaper, about? Sorry. Could be. There are always these highly contrasting, highly contradictory messages which come out even in the newspapers. Some scientists say it is a problem. Some others say it's not a problem, right? Some say it is natural. Some others say it's completely man-made, right? You must remember an extremely important aspect of science and public policy. All these confusions and debates happen only when politics comes in, right? These confusions do not at all happen amongst the body of scientists who are very, very clear. There will be only one question which a scientist will ask. Is it a natural change or is it an artificially induced change? That's all. We are not concerned about anything else. But when a politician jumps in, or let's say an economist jumps in, they get into all kinds of challenges, saying that who will pay for the problem? Are you responsible for it? Am I responsible for it? So on and so forth. So we should also be able to differentiate between the science of the problem and the politics of it. Okay? In the context, science, which is pursuit of knowledge, can never tolerate any wrong or a manipulated input, because it can never survive in the system. Right? When observations are seen and when they accumulate over a period of time, they will by themselves remove all fallacies and throw them. Science cannot be compromised. Science doesn't get compromised. Right? Now, this aspect of ozone layer depletion. Now, before we go further, why don't you ask some questions? If anyone asks, when will I stop? So loud and clear.
So can we call mathematics a science? When you say science is the approach to the
I will in fact go back to what I started. I'm as far removed from maths as Mysore to Massachusetts. I really do not know too much about mathematics. But if you ask me about a quantitative approach, I would certainly say it is 100% science. And the quantitative approach cannot separate itself from a qualitative approach. Right? And once you put quantities and qualities together, which can be perceived, which can be interpreted, then there is no challenge on it. Therefore, it is science. There is no doubt. That way, even handling politics, acting on any pursuit of knowledge is science.
Sir, in your opinion,
Loud and clear.
in your opinion, climate change is natural or artificially induced?
Well, great. Now, when you watch a Saurabh or a Sachin video or a Yuvraj video, the sixers is what matters. Right? Now, Saurabh and let's say Yuvraj may say, let me score 2 sixers, but if the bowler acts funny with me, I'll score 6 more sixers, right? So it's like that. It is a combination of both, a natural progression and an artificially induced progression. But we are certainly responsible for what is happening. There is no doubt about that.
If there is a approach of four or something can also be done in mathematics also.
Well, the answer to your question is, well, in the case of climate change, I have to understand what is happening to the accumulation of gases. So we went to the places where gases accumulate. Right? I can extend that logic even to mathematics, saying that if I want to understand a certain phenomenon or an application, I will go to the site where that application is happening. Okay?
So where the side will be for mathematics?
Pardon me?
Where the side will be for mathematics?
I'm not able to hear you.
So where will the side for this mathematics?
Where will be the site for mathematics? Well, I'm an ecologist, and I believe that the very process of our communication, including the transmission of sound waves, the distance travel, the impact and its interpretation, is all mathematics. Therefore, you can pick any system for that matter. Okay? It could be even interaction among ants, where the Indian Institute of Science. Where is the Indian Institute of Science? Indian Institute of Science, kahan hai?
Near IT.
Sorry?
Near IT.
Near ITO. The Indian Institute of Science, it's in Bangalore. Okay, Indian Institute of Science, yes, maybe IB or near Bangalore. Then that the Indian Institute of Science has got a center for ecological sciences, where there are scientists, who study extensively about honeybees, the honeybee hives, ant populations, termites. Why do they want to study that? They want to find out how individuals within a population interact with each other. Right? How do they, kind of divide people within a group? Some people are like the soldiers, some others are protectors, some others collect food. So that is also interpreted mathematically. So the answer to your question, any phenomenon we see, so long as it can be quantified, I think is within the realm of mathematics.
So what was the cause of the emergence of the Jandela Island?
You'll have to be a little more clear.
So what was the cause of this emergence of Jandela Island in the Pakistan?
Excellent. Now I'll be happy to answer that question, and thanks for complement to it. Maybe what you all should do is invite some of the best people probably in the areas of geophysics, tectonics and so on and so forth. When you go back, maybe you should ask your people to bring such people. One such name in our country who is very profound in all of this is Dr. Vijay Prasad Dimri. He was the director of the National Geophysical Research Institute and was also involved in the tsunami warning system. Now, it is important for you to know this name also. That is the thing. Well, I really do not know so much about the plate movements, but I believe it is on account of some landmass shifting, due to the pressures would have come. And they also say that, it would be transient, stay there for some time and vanish. So I simply cannot sound more intelligent than the science. Okay? So now, any more questions? No? Can I imagine that, this is an interesting time together, or? Sure.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, we should remember another very important fact. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 24, 30, 32 of us are in this room, right? And if we spend 1 hour, it's like 30 hours of nation's time. At the end of these 30 hours of nation's time, we should say, yes, we'll spend some time together usefully. That's extremely important. So now in the case of ozone layer depletion also, you may like to know that the scientists who received the Nobel Prize, there were 3 scientists who got the Nobel Prize for this work. The Nobel Prize was conferred on them on account of this black box approach. They were given 2 separate, incoherent, segments of information. One piece of information said there are some gases called chlorofluorocarbons which are present throughout the globe.